basically scaffold ain't getting erected if a design's not in place. There's a road, the Long Walk. There was a picture in the paper of showing thousands of people along the Long Walk, and at the end of that picture was my scaffold. The last thing you want to do is do a design, send the design off, and then when you calculate it, it doesn't work. Someone might come to me and say, okay, look, we've got this job to come. What beams will we need? You'd always have a second eye, someone else to have a look. Oh, are we sure? Are we okay with this? What about if we do it this way? There is a career progression in scaffolding now. There never used to be. 10 years ago, it was just, you get up in the morning, you go on site, put a bit of scaffolding up, come home, go down the pub. There's so many opportunities for the youngsters to come into the game. They had so many guys that had come in that, yes, they could do the job. They could draw a scaffold because they've got the experience, but they couldn't put it onto a piece of paper. You're designing based on the knowledge that you've got, and you've sort of, is AI going to benefit? I don't know. I went to school, algebra, you're like, what do I need to know algebra for? 30 years later, I'm doing algebra. For a start, all the writing on the drawings, 9 times out of 10, no one's going to read that. Let's see it later. We're talking about guys that have been putting stuff up and have been trained to do a job. And now they're being told, oh right, you've got to do it like this, and it does it, and that's where that battle comes. We should be able to have some sort of dialogue. As long as there is communication, it's not hard. I'm always going to try and do a design from a scaffolder's point of view. Being in an office, sitting down in the chair, sort of looking at a screen. Like, even now I can't.
Welcome back. My name is Sebastian Nick. Here's the Spotlight Sessions with in-house design engineer Matt Ward. Hi, good morning, Matt.
How's it going, Seb? You all right?
Yeah, very good, Matt.
Good.
Matt, would you be able to tell me about your progression in the scaffolding industry and your footpath?
I started on the tools from leaving, well, basically left school, 18, didn't know what to do, got a job, like a friend on site, and it went from there. Sort of done 18 years on the tools, site work, street work, price, all of it, and then got a bit of an opportunity to go into the design office working for Tone as a trainee designer. So I just took it. Yeah.
Why design?
Bored of scaffolding, hated it. I literally got to a point. I'd had enough. Yeah, on the tools. It's getting older. It gets harder, doesn't it? As you know.
Yeah.
So I thought I didn't want to be a supervisor. Didn't want to work like that sort of contracts manager. And then the design and engineering started getting big within the industry as the health and safety side of things started to get. So yeah, I basically see an opportunity in ScafMag. So I just applied and got a job.
And got a job. And what makes you to stay in that position? Because as you know, the design engineering is quite very difficult and very important work. And then what makes you?
I just enjoy it now. I really do enjoy it. Yeah.
If you can describe, let's say, part of your responsibilities in terms of being a in-house design engineer, and what is the biggest challenges you're facing on a daily basis, and what is the biggest rewards, if we can say it that way?
Challenges, a big challenge for me was coming off of the mindset of being a scaffolder and now being an engineer. It's very different. You sort of the what I put up on a daily basis. When I first went into the design, it was sort of, I looked at things, I was like, everything's failed. So much stuff that I put up, because you learn so much in the office. You learn how it's calculated, the capacities of the components, and once you start taking it all in, it's very challenging. Very challenging. It's good though. Yeah.
In terms of what makes you proud doing this job?
Having good job satisfaction, knowing that what you design is going to go out, it's going to be erected safely, you're contributing to the safe working environment of scaffolders, the construction industry itself. So
maybe what you can explain to us how is your day to day in the office or designing scaffolds looks like, and what is very important, what is less important, how you gather your informations from sites before you build any designs, before you create them.
I think one from a company side of things, one of the most like the important things is making sure that the jobs go out on time, and sort of keeping up with the company and the designs. Because obviously the way the industry is now is basically scaffold ain't getting erected if a design's not in place. So if you ain't sort of got yourself together, everything prepared, then you got setbacks for the company, ain't you? On a daily basis, it's just looking at looking at the projects, what you got coming up, working with the contracts managers, the supervisors, setting priorities, basically looking at what's going to be erected first, what designs needs to be.
Okay, and how you prioritize your designs?
Just working with the managers. Well, it is literally okay. So a lot, say like the weight stuff that we do a lot of commercial housing. We know that they could be erecting something next week, so we sort of just setting prioritize your workload and liaising.
And designs, let's put it, what is most difficult for you to design, residential kind of works or more site work, or there is no difference, or there is a big difference in between one and two?
Yeah, it's a massive difference. Obviously residential is just it's house fronts, isn't it? It's sort of like the basic type of scaffolding that you can get. 2-story, 3-story houses. Obviously once you go into the city you start seeing the big sites, how they work, so you're a lot more in it.
If you will say, and will describe your biggest and the most proudest moment of your career as a as an engineer, what would it be?
The Royal Wedding 2018. I designed a freestanding structure for all the television studios. So it was basically a freestanding structure, had 5 different studios in it. It had a viewing balcony, roof on it, and it was there. It was almost like a sort of centerpiece for all the recording for the day. There's a road, the Long Walk. There was a picture in the paper of showing thousands of people along the Long Walk, and at the end of that picture was my scaffold, and it was just this big, massive green. It was like sort of, it's like 10 meters high, and it was quite a proud moment. So to look, and that was in the papers all over the net. Like,
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
And then
I enjoyed that one.
and then if you will, like in layman terms, just describe kind of your day to day in the office designing stuff. So what would you start with, and then how has that been starting before you create a specific design for the job?
We start off with a brief. So I'll receive a brief from supervisor, contracts manager, detailing what the job is, what the job's for, who's going to be working on the job, any sort of restrictions on site that we need to know about. Even silly things like on a house, you may have manhole covers, knowing if there's sort of stuff that we need to look at, need to be aware of. From the brief, you then sort of taking in the information. You may need a site visit depending on what the information you've got, and then from there you just start the design process. I got taught to start with calculations first, because the last thing you want to do is do a design, send the design off, and then when you calculate it, it doesn't work. So now you've got to change the whole design, and you've got to go through that whole process of sort of going to the contract, look, made a mistake, it now needs to change. And that sort of, I guess it affects pricing, because we do a lot of that. Sort of someone might come to me and say, okay, look, we've got this job to come. What beams will we need? And if I don't look at it properly, and I say we need 450s and they fail, cause a lot of issues with it. So yeah, and from now, once you've got the basic calcs, start drawing, and then produce the design.
And do you need to send your designs for any external checking, for example, just to ensure you haven't missed
Everything,
anything?
yeah. The design is, there's a lot of regulations that's around design, and which is something that I'm still. That's one of them things that's always progressing. There's always a new rules and new regulations coming out, but every design has to have an independent checker. It's part of the health and safety side of things. So yeah, at the minute it's only me on embassy, so I do have to send that to external. But it's a case like I was on Tone, we had a few designers, so it would just go in that in house. But you'd always have a second eye, someone else to have a look. Are we
Just a,
sure? Are we okay with this? Maybe if we, what about if we do it this way? Do you know that they may see it a little bit different to that?
Mhm.
Because I'll always look at design from a scaffolder's point of view, where sometimes it's good an engineer to make no. What about if we done it like this or done it like that, and just sort of change things.
What is it like a refreshment in your, as you said, your regulations and everything else? There was any the bespoke training design for you to go and do the refreshment every now and then to ensure that you stay up to date with the current legislation and
There's nothing really as of refreshment courses. There's training. You can always train. You can go into master's degree, which if I went down that route, I could be sort of still in training for the next another 5 years. So there is always. I've sort of got to a point. I'm not really interested in taking my full-time education any further, but I am looking at more short courses, working little courses for me
Mhm.
that help me progress with what I do.
All right, Matt. So how would you recommend to people to get into a scaffolding? What is your stand on it, and how would you
Um,
attract them?
recommending, I'd always say, get that experience on the tools. That's the first, just to get knowledge of construction in general. Not just scaffolding, construction, how a site works, how the industry works in general, and then look at it as where can I go from here? There is a career progression in scaffolding now. There never used to be. 10 years ago, it was just you get up in the morning, you go on site, put a bit of scaffolding up, come home, go down the pub. That was sort of like the.
Culture.
Yes, it is, and it is changed now. So there's so many opportunities for the youngsters to come into the game, get some experience on site, and then move off. You've got the supervising, you've got health and safety side of things now, the design. There is so many opportunities. So
Good. What you can say? Look at me. I started as a scaffolder and I end up in and let's say in an engineer because this is a quite proud moment. You know what I mean? Not many people from scaffolders ending up in the office as engineers, in-house engineers.
do you know
Because
what? Do you know
we
what? Do you know why though? Do you want to know the reason why they don't?
yes, exactly. I
Because
want to know
half
the
of them
reason.
can't use computers and half of them are not. That's enough. That's a big thing to be able to come into this side of things. Yeah, you do have to be able to use a computer. You do have to be able to use software, use CAD, yeah, understand drawing, understand a little bit of design as well. Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the big, because a lot of the older generation, then they grew up not using computers, and that was the first thing when I first went into the office on Tone. I was like, I can't believe how well you can use a computer. They said they had so many guys that had come in that, yes, they could do the job. They could draw a scaffold because they've got the experience, but they couldn't put it onto a piece of paper. They couldn't understand how to calculate the scaffold. So, but I think now media, the way the world is, it's easier for the youngsters because they're all the young. We've all got iPads now. We've all got phones. We've all got digital technology. So it is easier for the youngsters to sort of get into it.
So what I'm getting from it, maybe if the organization is gonna put a little bit more foot down and design something for the people and to attract the talent people like yourself working through and then find a different path of staying within the industry, not leaving the industry, but fulfilling the gap when your skills, your ability, and your capabilities are matched to do the job, and then you can expand and then you can
Yeah.
grow. So, bespoke training that would be good. And what do you reckon? What the companies are lacking in terms of supporting that kind of progress?
I don't know, it's a bit of a hard one for me because I've only been in the office on two scaffolding companies, Tone and embassy. And I found so far, because I think it's more down to the mindset of the company, to be quite honest with you. If the company like embassy, they're on progressing people, they're on giving out the training, and when the company is focused, then it seems to work. So I think it's more just down to the mindset of the company to ensure that they're putting on the.
Would you say the embassy are fulfilling the obligations with it?
Well, as far as what I've seen, yeah, they do a lot. They do a lot for the training, even down to things like this. I've never dreamt of coming on a scaffold company and sitting here doing a podcast. Do you know what I mean? So it's just the way the world is progressing now, isn't it?
Good.
Before I joined the embassy, I worked for a design company called IDH, and we used to get main contractors. They'll come to us and they'll be like, "Look, we've got this building site coming up, and we want to put something together visually to send out for tender."
Yeah.
They want 3D. They want to see. They're now. I've seen designs where they'll set up a 3D and they'll have a walkthrough of the scaffold. So you'll walk under the gantry. You'll You'll go up the staircase, and you'll see the whole site, and it's all how it's meant to work, all from the computer side of things.
You mentioned before some calculations. Could you give us a bit insight of importance of the calculations and the load analysis?
Well, the calculations are there to ensure that what we design and what is erected is safe and is going to be safe for the work that's in hand. So it's a matter of sort of looking at what work. Is it for painting? Is it masonry? Do you know what I mean? Just so we're looking at what work's got to happen, and then making a decision on the kind of loadings that will be required on the scaffold. And when I say loadings, you're sort of talking as a live load, which is the working load of the scaffold. How many men can be on the scaffold? What materials can they have on the scaffold? And it's just a case of sort of working that out, taking that into the calculations, and then just ensuring all the components comply and are able to withstand the loads that's applied to them. But that's not just, you've got wind loadings within that. So you're looking at is the scaffold going to stand within high winds? So that's what we do with the loading side of things. Just sort of ensuring that it's safe and it's going to maintain to be safe.
So overall, the what is the classified or stand as a best working practice for design engineer?
Best working practice. Obviously, as with anything, you have got your Euro codes, British standards, things like that. We have to work to. Design's it's a lot within the British standards and the Euro codes. Basically, design is based upon what's outlined within these codes. So we have to stick within them all the time. Yeah, TG20 is a big one. TG20, but then that's sort of it's the general governing body almost, isn't it, for scaffolding? It's just that's the thing, isn't it?
Matt, what do you think the AI will benefit in the future to helping doing your job?
I don't know. I think AI will benefit everything in some way or another. Whether it can help in the future, I'm not too sure. I don't know. It's sort of with AI, you've got to give it the information to be able for it to do something. And for what we do, the amount of information you have to put into it, and you're also looking at sort of, as you know, on site, how a site starts off, it never stays the same. You've always got that progression. You've always got something that's, I've got to get round. There's a manhole cover. There's services in the way. So it's always progression. You've always got to do something else and look at whether or not AI can be incorporated into that. I don't know.
Let's wait and see in the future.
Yeah, no, I suppose one thing it could be helpful, the calculations, I suppose. In a sense, it's maths, isn't it? But again, you still got to put data into it. So, I don't know. Be interesting to see where it goes.
How has your skill set changed since you started the design engineering?
Um, well, obviously maths in general. That's been a big sort of understanding maths. I went to school, algebra. You're like, what do I need to know algebra for? 30 years later, I'm doing algebra. So that sort of thing. Um, I think skill set as well is doing the designs every day, having a better understanding of what to design and why to design it. Um, Silly things like sometimes you'll get asked to do a design. You've got one man on the design, you're one man on the job, but they want 2 kilonewtons everywhere across the. You're like, what's the point? Do you know the silly things like then you come into beam? So it is just having a. I think just that experience.
Will you will you see the difference in your first design and your designs right now? And then
yeah. I think that the way I present the information, I think that's come along quite a lot. Producing a drawing that a scaffolder can understand, a scaffolder can read, highlighting the important details within a design as well. Do you know, like the critical areas where you've got high loadings, where there's a bit more risk involved in a certain area of the building. So being able to highlight that a little bit and translate the information. And I got told this as well is sort of terminology. Try to keep it as a scaffolder for myself. So because I've come from that background, so I've reading the drawings. So try and produce a drawing that I know I can read. Do you know what I mean? And translate that information. And I think terminology, because you see sometimes you see a lot of terminology on these drawings. You see for a start, all the writing on the drawings, 9 times out of 10, no one's going to read that. Let's see it later. Do you know what I mean? All that writing. So a way of translating what you want them to understand visually, and then if you have to put notes on it, which you do, just to explain everything, is to use a sort of explain it in a way that a scaffolder is used to working with, not using loads and loads of engineering terminology, because it gets lost in scaffold. And that's no disrespect. You're talking about guys that have been putting stuff up and have been trained to do a job. And now they're being told, oh, right, you've got to do it like this. And it does it. And that's where that battle comes. So it's just, yeah.
Just presenting,
translating things, just as a scaffolder can understand it a little bit better.
That's the main thing. So.
That's what I think that's quite important with the design. Because I do think that sometimes you get these designs and it's just full of writing and all and the scaffolder looks at it and thinks, and that's when it gets thrown in the bin. And then they start, and that's where the problems come along. They start doing their own thing, what they've been trained to do. But because it's not by the drawing, it works. It can still work because you know how to build a scaffold, but it's not by the drawing. And then it comes into these problems of, right, why hasn't it been done by the drawing? And then, yeah.
What is your most enjoyable project that you are working on, or most recently on?
I like doing the roofs. I like that, and we've got the Shrewsbury House. That's it. Yeah, so it's a really old community centre. Building's lovely, like really, really old traditional building, and we've had to put a independent scaffold all around it, roof. So that was enjoyable. I like doing the roofs.
Why do you like the temporary roofs? What's the difference in them than the typical scaffolding?
It's something different, isn't it? You sort of down to the calculation side of it. It's a lot more involved. It's a lot more in depth. So it's just more interesting rather than, I don't know, just an independent upper wall. Do you know what I mean? You got to think about things a little bit more.
There was a difference in spans and
or even down to silly things like that Shrewsbury House. The roof's 8 metres above the last tie point, so we've got issues there of making sure that roof is stable. But we've only got tyres, like sort of 2 sets of tyres. So that itself, there's challenges involved in that. So you have to think about things. And yeah, that's where it gets more enjoyable.
Plan in advance.
Yeah, and like we've got an issue. So the way it's been designed, and we've had to do certain things. We have to get it checked. the checkers recommended certain, and now we've got issues where they're like, we can't work around the scaffold. So now we've got to sort of go back to it, have a look at it, and make a few changes just so site can actually do their work. There's too much bracing in it.
It's your job.
Not mine. I never done it.
So, would you tell us how important it is to have a good relationships with the teams you work in, with the managers, and obviously with the scaffolders, with the people who's doing the job?
Yeah, I think it's really important for the design engineer to have a relationship with the scaffolders themselves, not just the contracts managers and the supervisors, the guys that are going out there to put the job up. I'm producing a design for you to go and put it up. So we should be able to have some sort of dialogue. He should be able to come back to me and say, do you know what, Matt? You said put a standard there, but I can't put a standard there. There's a box in the way. There's a service box there. It's not. Do you know what I mean? I've may have got drawings, maybe something I've missed, but then at least then I can sort of, all right, no worries. We can do this in two ways. You do what you think to get around it. That's going to give the easiest way for you to get around it to ensure that scaffold goes up. Then I can have a look at it and I can say to you, do you know what? Yeah, that's bang on. Or put a check fitting on it. Do you know what I mean? And we sort of, and I think that works really well. And the other way is sometimes as-built designs as well. It does.
What that means as build design? Could you explain just a little bit more?
So,
because, people might don't know.
Say an emergency, you may have an emergency job, a job that needs to go up tomorrow. Yeah, it's come in. So the scaffolders will go out and they'll build the job. And then we do what we call an as-built design, where basically I'll go out, I'll look at the job, and then I will design, do the relevant checks, make sure it's safe. If there's any issues with what they've put up, then I can just make some recommendations, add a spur brace. Oh, do you know what? You may need a beam there because you've got to thinking ahead. Oh, we've got to have punch up, or adding check fittings, we need a bit of additional bracing or something. Do you know what I mean? So I think having that relationship with the scaffolders is really important.
So in terms of designs changes, you have mentioned the build, design as build, the guys going on site and doing it. How often you've been informed that your designs is not working and there is a little tweak into on site that you need to look into, and then if they do not work with your design and with your calculations, that creates a big issue, or there is a quick fix?
It all depends on the issue, whether it's going to be a quick fix or not. It depends what the issue is. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, yeah, it's easy to.
But I understand it's not very often that
No,
your design.
It happens. It does happen quite often. It's not always. Even down to you receive drawings from the site. You'll have a building site. You'll receive drawings from the site. An architectural drawing. They don't even give you all the information. Sometimes there's services missed out. There's things that's missed out on their drawings. So you're already starting on a losing position anyway. So there's always, especially with the bigger sites as well, you're always going to have to some sort of changes. Do you know what? Even down to the work, you may get a case where you've designed a scaffold, the bricklayers are using it for the bricklayers. Site's like, oh no, do you know what? While that boarded lift's there, we just need to get a bit of guttering in, so then you make an adaptation. Do you know what I mean? You work. But as long as there is communication, it's not hard. It's not hard. As long as you've got communication, as long as you've got the right information, and you all work together, it's not as hard as it should be.
So Matthew, you said you come from a scaffolding background. So what do you think, in your opinion, what is the difference between coming from a scaffolding background and becoming a design engineer, and just to being graduated and finished school and become a design engineer?
I think sometimes the main difference is probably how I'll look at a job, where I'm always going to try and do a design from a scaffolder's point of view as an access solution. Whereas I have come across, like, sometimes the engineers, they start from an engineering side of things. Well, they'll look at it, that's how they see it from an engineering side. They're looking at loadings, they're looking at whereas I'm just looking at how do we get there. That's the first thing. How do we get there? Right, this is how we get there. Right, okay, I'm now doing the calcs. This doesn't work. Right, let me change. Now what changes do I need to make within my own design just to make sure that works?
So you reckon that will give you a little bit kind of advantage in front of them, because you can foresee things that they not normally can see in a job. Those scaffolding background gives you some.
It gives me an advantage for knowing what is required, in a sense, sort of, because there's not many designs that I've done that I haven't erected. Do you know what I mean? That type of scaffold I've erected, but then there is a bit of, I think there can be a disadvantage where I haven't got the full engineering knowledge. I haven't gone through school, college, university. I haven't learned engineering, so my knowledge it's not. Do you know what I mean?
Limited.
It is limited, and so that I guess that falls into what we spoke about earlier with training. But I'm sort of looking at it, rather than trying to do one full long 5-year degree. I'm trying to do sort of short learning. That
And
kind
get
of
your experience.
yeah, and I'm more of a experience side of things now.
How easy was for you to switch from being a scaffolder to being a scaffold
Hard.
engineer?
Hard, really hard. Even just the mindset, sort of being able to tell someone to f off when do you know what I mean? That's how you know what it's like out on the tools. Do you know what I mean? So you on the tools, you're it's crazy. It can be crazy sometimes, but you're your own boss. You do what you want, as long as I used to do a lot of price work, so I just used to turn up. I'd put scaffold up, I'd take it down, whatever. I earn what I want to earn. I go home. Nah, and coming away from that mindset, it was really hard. Being in an office, sitting down in the chair, sort of looking at a screen 8 hours in the day. I'm like, even now I can't. Every 2 hours I have to stand up, have a walk, go outside, have a fag. I can't take my lunch into the office because I couldn't sit there for 8. Do you know what I mean? I need to get out. I need to go out half hour, even if I just go and buy a coffee from Costa.
So what is the next step for you to get yourself up to date and progress?
Next steps, I am for Embassy. We're starting to look at sort of producing more of the 3D kind of designs. I want to look into, because BIM's massive at the minute, and that's sort of the way the industry's going with the designing and the engineering, and I think that's the next sort of progression that Embassy will sort of take, with coming into the BIM side of things. And yeah.
Matt, and finally, what would you say to the all people who wants to come and join this construction and scaffolding industry?
I think come into it now with a bit more of an open mind, and to look at it as a career. Whereas, so when I first got into it, it was just a job. So there's so many opportunities for the youngsters, not just the youngsters, even like the guys that have been already in the industry, and they're thinking, what else can I do? Not everyone wants to be a supervisor. Not everyone wants to be a contracts manager. I didn't. I couldn't deal with myself. So there's no way I want to like go out every day and have to deal with me, 10 of them. So there is a lot more openings and opportunities for people within the industry now.
Thank you very much, Matt. That was a very good session. Thank you. And
Pleasure.
see you soon.
Thanks.